but I'm not gonna take this opportunity to reread it. That's my timer. By Mary Kubica, and obviously or some variation of lie in the cover, in the title, even though I have them on hold, but people, I don't know, life can happen. And that's that. Hi everyone, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is going to be my TBR for BuzzwordAthon, which is a readathon created by Kayla at Books Lala. And this year she's joined as her co-host by Natasha from My Reading is Odd. And the idea of BuzzwordAthon is that Kayla picks a word that is kind of popping up on book titles everywhere, and your mission is to find books with that word or a variation of that word and read books with that word in it. So this year's word is lie, and the idea is like you can do lie, liar, lying, kind of any variation of the word, and just read books that are either kind of on your shelf that you've been meaning to get to or at your library. And it's not about like going out and buying new books and, you know, creating this huge expense by spending money on a bunch of books that are out there. But it's really about kind of getting to your backlist and getting to some books you've been meaning to read, or maybe some books you've been hearing about that you're interested in, and, you know, just having some fun with it. So it's a low-key readathon. It's not like jam-packed with challenges and kind of all these things you have to do. It's all in good fun. I do think they're going to do like some Twitter sprints, so I will include the Twitter handle down below so you can get connected to that. But I thought this was going to be fun. There happened to be a few books with the word lie, lying, liar in it that I was interested in reading. So I'm going to talk about books that are on my list, and then I'm also going to throw out a few titles of books that I've read if you are looking for some inspiration. So the first book is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, and this is actually kind of the buddy read for the BuzzwordAthon. So you're not required to read it, but if you are looking to get in on the action, this is the book that they picked. And I'm super excited because this is a book that I've really wanted to read, so it's a perfect excuse. It would have been on my list either way, but I love the idea of kind of reading it as a group. And this is Riley Sager's second book. So I read Final Girls last year and I absolutely loved it. And the only reason I haven't read this book yet is just because other books were getting in my way, but this is a perfect excuse to read it. And I don't know too much about it, except it's our main character, her name is Emma, and years ago she went to a summer camp and she was in a cabin or friends with these three other girls, and apparently they used to love to play that game, Two Truths and a Lie. And one night, Emma was the youngest of the group, so the other girls kind of went out or left the cabin or whatever without her, and they never came back. So we fast forward however many, I don't know if it's like 10 years later, and Emma is, I guess, like a famous painter, and for some reason she returns to the camp, and I really don't know why, but it gives her an opportunity to try and look into what happened to her friends, and she's down for that, and I'm down for this book. So this is book number one. The second book I have on my list is Let Me Lie by Claire McIntosh. And I read I'd Let You Go by her, which I loved. And it's, if you haven't read it, it's a good thriller. It's got a great twist in it. It just was very unexpected to me, sort of the book in general. It was the first book by her I read and wasn't really sure what to expect, but I loved it. And I picked this up a couple months ago and I talked about it in a haul I had, which I'll link down below. So I got this in November. But anyway, long story short, it's another thriller, and I don't know too much about it, which is intentional, but the premise is this girl, Anna, her parents both committed suicide, I think a few months apart from each other, and the police think it's suicide. Anna doesn't believe them, and she starts to look into what happens, and she probably shouldn't have because now she's in danger. The next book on my list is Every Last Lie by Mary Kubica, and I read The Good Girl and I read Pretty Baby, and I liked them both, so I obviously picked this one up on a sale shelf with the intention of reading it, but I just haven't gotten to it yet, so here's a perfect excuse. And this one is about Clara, and Clara's husband and her 4-year-old daughter are in a car crash, and her husband is killed, and miraculously her 4-year-old is unharmed and perfectly fine. And I guess the police think it's an accident. Clara doesn't really believe that, and she starts looking into what happened. So I don't know too much else about it, which is good, but I know that it is told kind of in the present tense, and then it's told in the 9 months leading up to the accident from Nick's perspective. So you have 9 months ago in Nick's perspective, and then you have present day in Clara's perspective. So like I said, I really enjoyed her first 2 books, so I'm optimistic that I'm going to enjoy this one too. The next book on my list is All the Beautiful Lies by Peter Swanson. And I raved about Peter Swanson after I read The Kind Worth Killing. So I am instantly obsessed with him and want to read everything he ever wrote. And this book, fortunately, fits the bill. So this book is about a boy he's a guy. He's about to graduate college, so I don't want to make it sound like he's 12 or something. It's like a few days before he's going to graduate college, and his stepmother calls to tell him that his father has died and has committed suicide. And he doesn't believe it. I don't know why I seem to keep getting like themes with these books. So the police rule it suicide. I think the son thinks something is up. He winds up returning to Maine to be with his stepmother to kind of help her, I think, grieve and figure out what happened and kind of look into his father. And then at the same time, there's this beautiful stranger who comes into town, and she claims to, I think, know something about his dad or know something about the past. So the son winds up kind of digging into what happened. And I've heard kind of mixed reviews on this, but I guess, you know, the new beautiful stranger in town becomes a love interest for the son, but also I think like the stepmom maybe is hitting on him. So I don't know if this takes like a sketchy, skeevy turn. I really hope not. I'm very optimistic about Peter Swanson, so I'm putting it on the list and hopeful that this is not going to skeeve me out for some reason, but it's going to just be like a great thriller. And the last book I have on my list is Sweet Little Lies by Kaz Freer. I think that's how you say it. Probably not, so sorry if I'm saying it wrong. And this is a debut novel, and it's based in London. It's a police procedural, and it follows a detective Kat who I think kind of, I don't know too much about it, but there is a woman who's found strangled, and the police suspect her husband of it. But then apparently it connects to a case that happened in Ireland, I think like 18 years ago or something, and Kat's father was maybe involved and disappeared. So I think it's like she thinks her dad might be a murderer, and did he murder the girl in Ireland, and did he murder the woman in London? But she kind of digs into both cases and wants to close them both up and wants to find out, understandably, what all is going on. But I've heard great things about this book, so I definitely want to check it out. And again, perfect reason to give it a go. So I also wanted to talk about a few books that I've read already that have the word lie in it, or some variation of lie, if you're looking for some more books to read for the BuzzwordAthon. And the first one I have is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. And I read this, I guess, like early last year, and I really enjoyed it. And kind of what hooked me, which was kind of the tagline for it, which is, my name is Amber Reynolds. There are 3 things you should know about me. I'm in a coma. My husband doesn't love me anymore. Sometimes I lie. So Amber wakes up in the hospital. She can't move, she can't speak, she can't open her eyes, but she can hear what's going on around her, which is basically people in her hospital room talking. And she has no memory of what landed her in the hospital. So this book is told in varying timelines, kind of, you know, the present day of what's happening in the hospital, kind of leading up to what put her in the hospital, and then also ties back to her childhood because it involves her family's in the book and her husband's in the book and her work and her workmates. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on. I really enjoyed it. This is another book that I think got some mixed reviews, but I think I've said this before, books are so subjective and mysteries are so subjective, but I really enjoyed it. It's a fairly short book. I think it's under 300, it's 262 pages. So from a readathon standpoint, if you're looking to get a couple under your belt, this is a good one, numbers-wise too. But I really enjoyed it, so I would recommend it. The next book is one I talked about in my 2018 favorites, and that's The Marriage Lie by Kimberly Bell. So this book is about a couple who, kind of days after celebrating their 7th wedding anniversary, the husband, Will, goes on a business trip to Florida. And a few hours later, his wife Iris gets a phone call that her husband has died in the plane that went down on its way to Seattle. That's not where Will was going. So Iris, of course, starts looking into what happened and looking into the man that she thought she knew, but didn't know at all. Another book that I've already talked about is Lie to Me by J.T. Ellison. And this is the first J.T. Ellison book that I read, and I loved her writing style. I really enjoyed this book. It's a little Gone Girl-esque. It is about a couple, Ethan and Sutton, and, you know, happily married couple, and then Sutton goes missing. So the police get involved, they automatically suspect the husband, you know, there's no trace of her. She didn't take her purse, she didn't take her phone, she didn't take her car, she like literally disappeared in the night. He comes down for breakfast and she's not there. So what happened? It tells, again, you've got kind of varying timelines, varying perspectives going on here. You've got the police involved, you've got the friends involved. I really enjoyed it. If it's not in any way like a Gone Girl ripoff, like don't get me wrong, it's not, but I know it gets those kind of vibes, but you're not reading that same story. So I would recommend it. Like I said, I really enjoyed J.T. Ellison's writing, and I've since picked up other books by her to read. So another good one in the lie category. The next book I want to recommend is Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. And to me, this is a no-brainer. If you haven't read this book, pick it up. It's so good. And if you've already seen the HBO series, I still think the book is worthwhile because there's so much that goes into it and there's so much more to people's stories that I definitely think it's worth the read. Plus, it's just super well written, and I think Liane Moriarty's great at what she does. But if you don't know anything about this book, the short answer, or the short version, is kind of in the opening of the book, you find out that there's a murder, but you don't know who died. And you kind of have this one sort of weaving of the police questioning other people in the town. And it's about kind of all these moms whose kids go to the same kindergarten, and then it's, you know, their spouses and their families and their lives, and then it's the other parents that are in the school. So you get to see the police kind of interviewing other people, so you get those people's perspectives on our main characters. And then you also get kind of everything leading up to the night that someone is killed. I think it's really well done. I was totally engrossed in the book. I couldn't say more good things about it. I'm absolutely going to reread it at some stage, just not next week when the readathon happens, but hopefully some people will pick this one up if they haven't already. If you're looking for a nonfiction book to read during this, I think you can get away with reading Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis, because the long title is Stop Believing the Lies. See what I did there? Stop believing the lies about who you are so you can become who you were meant to be. Obviously, I love this book. I did a whole dedicated video on it, which I'll link down below. So if you're curious and interested in reading this, check out that video. And the last book I have to recommend is The Lying Game by Ruth Ware. And this book follows 4 girls who meet in boarding school, and they were like 16 at the time, and they were famous for playing the lying game. And the lying game has some consequences. And then we fast forward about 20 years, and the girls, now women, are brought back together again because of something that they did when they were younger. So that's kind of all I'm going to say about that. It's told in both timelines, so you have them at kind of both points in their lives, and you get to, you know, understand the friendships and the relationships and sort of all the stuff that goes along with it. So I really enjoyed this book. I'm a big fan of Ruth Ware. I've read all 4 of her books. I will say her first book, In a Dark, Dark Wood, is my favorite, and like a lot of people, The Girl in Cabin 10 is my least favorite. So I loved the beginning of it. I didn't like how that one ended, but anyway, we're here to talk about this one. So I would recommend this book. If you haven't read Ruth Ware yet, I would absolutely give her a go. I love her storytelling. I love her style. It's funny to me when people talk about her and they will say, like, she's not for everyone, but I don't think any author is for everyone. So either you like her or you don't, and that's totally fine. I am someone who really likes her. So if you, like I said, if you're looking to dip a toe into her pond, why not start with this one during this BuzzwordAthon and, you know, give it a go. So those are all of the books I have for BuzzwordAthon. And to be clear, I don't expect to read all of the books that are on my wish list, but I did want to stack the deck in the event that I don't get on with one of the books, or if I'm just not in the mood to read one of them. So again, I'm a mood reader and I wanted to make sure I had options. So let me know if you guys are going to do BuzzwordAthon, what books you're reading, if you have read any of the books that are on my wish list, if there's one you think I should start with. I'm going to plan to start with Riley Sager just because I am dying to read it and I want to make sure I read it with the group part of things, but after that I don't know which way I'm going to go. So let me know what you guys are up to, and I will, I think I'll probably do kind of like a recap just of how BuzzwordAthon went for me. So stay tuned for that. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to hear more about what I have to say, definitely subscribe. But thank you guys for hanging out a bit today, and I will see you again soon. Bye, everybody.